What scares you the most about today's reality? The seemingly inexorable drift toward authoritarianism coupled to the dissolution of democracy. Along with the belief that alternative facts are an actual thing, the celebration and glorification of stupidity and ignorance is just scary. The fact that every human being has a wealth of information right at their fingertips, and many choose to remain absolutely ignorant. I think the scarier fact is that wealth of information is so flooded with misinformation, and search results have become so ad and sponsor focused, that fact-checking has become such an involved process that people don't care enough to go through. When people are bombarded with multiple, conflicting versions of the same news story, then everyone just decides to pick the version that they already agree with. Fake news equals anything I don't agree with. I think we're heading towards more and more powerful governments. The New World Order is super scary. Not owning anything and being happy with that is definitely something out of an utopian horror movie. On the contrary, we're heading towards more and more powerful corporations. Regulatory capture. Corporations and ultra-wealthy individuals have become so rich and powerful they control communication and the political narrative, thus manufacturing consent, and then simply buying favor with elected officials. Not necessarily just that, but the general complacency of people is astounding as well. It mostly always has been except in situations where people become particularly hungry or distressed. The vast majority of people all around the world are happy to live quiet local lives enjoying their friends and family, as long as the powers that be keep the general populace within a certain range of comfort. The powerful can do whatever else they want. Rent is insane. Food prices are insane. Wages are insanely incredibly low and getting lower. Wages get lower and yet people are becoming more and more educated. Just graduating high school used to be a big deal. But now, even if you graduate from a well-known university, you can be jobless because there are thousands of others who have as well, such as in South Korea, apparently. I simply can't afford to live. Rent and mortgage is extremely high. I have to pay taxes just because I'm alive, insurance, maintenance, utilities, groceries. I just can't. I legitimately expect the NET lying down movement to start accelerating within the next few years, maybe within a decade, as the gap between what people can afford and what they can attain becomes so high that many people simply just refuse to jump into the system and participate. We kind of see this in the current homeless population, but the overwhelming majority have issues like drug addiction or mental illness that made that happen. I could see young people just adopting that. Why try if your efforts are guaranteed to bear nothing for your trouble? I've been thinking about living in a vehicle for the next decade and saving money in the bank until I can afford a cheap house somewhere. Then work another decade and retire with all the money I've saved. Our whole existence is now based on the internet. When the grid goes down, we are truly screwed. A CME could easily put us back 100 years. A cyber attack could wipe out our savings and retirement. Don't worry, the government will take care of us. How would you combat this? Not sure if you really can. A coronal mass ejection will happen, probably pretty soon. I will fry all electronics not protected, Faraday cage. All cars, power plants, etc. will not work. It will take years to fix. A cyber attack, if big enough, could bring down the internet. That will also bring down power stations, they are networked. If it is bad enough, it could take years to fix. A cyber attack might be avoided, but a CME would cost billions if not trillions to protect against. Government infrastructure will probably be intact for the most part, but my guess is that they will wait for the dust to clear before they do anything. Don't hold your breath. Political echo chambers. People no longer want to hear opposing point of views, only ones that reinforce their own, which usually leads to farther and farther away from center. We're running out of clean water. Don't forget that rainwater isn't safe to drink. All thanks to DuPont and their wonderful forever chemicals that remain practically unregulated for decades. Call me dumb, but why? I always wondered if we can't just sterilize the ocean water. Requires a massive amount of energy, which equates into a massive cost. Sending my 4-year-old to school in a country with school shootings. One time I saw a beat-up white van parked outside her school, ignition on, just sitting there, and I waited in the parking lot to see if it would leave or if anyone would come out. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills for feeling so paranoid, but it's too real. My daughter is my life. I never want her to be afraid of living her life, but I am afraid for her life. That fear is always subtly present in the back of my mind. I'll never show it though. I'll never tell her that I worry if the hug and kiss goodbye will be the last. There's no way I'd send my child to public school in today's day and age after going through the public school during the 1990s and seeing what I saw. I knew about drugs, sex, racism, and much more than I should have before I reached 7th grade. With social media being what it is, society is 1,000 times worse than it once was. I'd find a good private school in a small town like Little House on the Prairie. Do you think removing kids from the problems is better for them, or teaching them how to work through the problems is better? I went to a small private school and was eventually homeschooled. I faced those problems when I became an adult, and since I never learned how to deal with them, I was ill-prepared. I would say I found who I am and what I really stand for much later in life than my peers. Public schools aren't the issue that I was addressing, and small private schools come with their own set of problems. WW3 is never too far off, and the technological advancements made since WW2 could make it way more dangerous. All it takes is one idiot who decides to use nukes, and we could destroy the planet and all of its inhabitants. How fast people believe a headline without even taking a second to read the first line or any of the article itself. I think to me that is the scariest thing about modern-day social media and media outlets. The insane amount of anger, agitation between people in general. Every single thing has a political spin on it thanks to social media. People are losing the ability to think for themselves, completely outgo control. And we can't really escape reality with some good movie, TV show. Politics are there too. That people can ignore reality so easily and substitute whatever fantasy makes them feel good. People seem kind of hopeless and miserable. Actual real-world issues are part of it, and I think the internet and consumer culture magnifies it. A lot of the emerging technology worries me because I see work being automated away but not the capitalist values underpinning it. We'll make a global society that doesn't need people to function but nevertheless has more than 8 billion of us. Our planet is being destroyed, and it's only going to get exponentially worse by the year. Each natural disaster is now the worst one in centuries, and they happen more than once a year and continue to have a new, the worst event, the following year. Scary as shit when people just shrug hearing that and say, well, if this level happened in 1910, then this is just overdue and a coincidence, without looking at the patterns. We're in a generation where actual reality is being suppressed by the media and other BS, and so many people will realize when it's too late. The fact that everyone has decided that all of reality is now completely open to personal interpretation. Any new that you do agree with is true, and anything you don't agree with automatically fake. Anything you do believe in is real, and anything you don't believe in is false. Anyone who agrees with you is right, and anyone who disagrees with you is automatically wrong. Any evidence that contradicts your belief is automatically inadmissible simply because you disagree with it. And as long as you can surround yourself with a small crowd of people who agree with you, that automatically proves that you are right. Logic, science, facts, and empirical evidence mean absolutely nothing. Actual reality has lost all meaning, and there doesn't seem to be anything that anyone can do about it. That it's too late to fix climate change. People are too reliant on the government and just accept things how they are. No one is self-sufficient anymore and could barely survive if our infrastructures completely failed. Political extremism. It just feels like we're one wrong tweet away from all-out war. Nobody in authority is being held accountable for obvious and blatant crimes. The lack of understanding of what may happen in the near future, given the situation in the world, it scares me. The fact that, when I really sit down and think about it, I can't really see the point to life. It just seems like in the grand scheme of things everything I do is insignificant and unremarkable and will be forgotten. Yeah, the way I see it, you kind of just have to find your own meaning. For some people that's a relationship, for others it's a career or a family. But unless you believe in something greater, you just have to lean on what makes you feel fulfilled. Life, in my view, is objectively no more important than a video game, but I can still try to have fun playing it. What scares you the most about today's reality? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.